Thank you. And thanks, Deepak, for joining us here. As somebody who has led large transformation and also now working with a lot of entities at early stage to late stage as well, I think Deepak is thinking from a very vantage point, right, where he knows and he's seen a lot of stuff and he knows what scale. So maybe from your perspective, I mean, India, Bharat is all the same. I mean, sometimes we make it too different. But what is the Indian fintech model or a Bharat fintech model, and how do you see things like DPI and obviously all the initiatives with fintechs are taking? Where is it evolving? Where is it going? So we are thought process on Indian model and what will happen now?
So I think, Samir, thanks for putting up such a wonderful show and inviting me over.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
always a pleasure to be at Bharat Fintech Summit. I think this is one of the go-to events now. And your event's name itself is Bharat, right? So I couldn't have been more proud of saying that Bharat lands on a Bharat Fintech Summit. So I think this is the true soul and spirit of India. And I think when we look at financial service models, there was a time we all used to think financial inclusion is Bharat, but no more. I think that whole aspirational India today that we see that is across the length and breadth of this country. And I was just talking to some friends outside. And I said, today, what is Bharat? I mean, you have more than 100 airports in the country. You can probably go to any part of the country, and if there's an airport, you are connected at least in that 150 kilometer radius by air. The broadband and the 4G network, if not 5G, through telecom fiber, such beautiful roads now and expressways. So by road, the distances are not much. So truly, when we look at these all as symbol, I think the aspirational India, the infrastructure, be it digital infrastructure, the civic and public infrastructure, that has all bridged the gap between what people in Mumbai or Delhi like versus Indore or Jamshedpur or Coimbatore or Devghar like. Yeah, I mean, we can just talk of the last mile rural very differently, but I think this whole Bharat story is transformed thanks to DPI, access, aspirational middle class. And I think they all want...
Binny, I think can we be just more silence there?
Yeah,
Sorry.
because when you look from customer lens, they want the same thing. They want to send their kids to school. They need good education. That means they need a better connectivity either for e-learning or making a digital payment, or they need credit, they need insurance. They may need a crop insurance, they may need a weather insurance, but they need insurance. They need credit not for business, but for probably agri or farming. So there is a need for credit. So I think the only shift I see today, Samir, is how you deliver the product from underwriting, risk, collection, the purpose for which a financial service product is rendered. Like you mentioned, an auto loan versus a tractor loan, a commercial vehicle loan or a construction equipment loan. So I think financial products have to pivot. The distribution model has to change. But I think all the necessary infrastructure or railroads are all laid around.
No, this is good. This is good. So, would you want to talk about the kind of products which need to be built in India and any specific areas of choice, say, on the credit side, maybe collections, fraud, KYC? What do you think needs to be built right now, specifically for India? And of course, you can also think about what can be taken outside the market to other markets as well.
No, fantastic. Great question again. And I think we have been talking about it earlier as well, that I think it's a time now that the India model is the model for global South. While we all love to go to the Western world, but I think there's a large market, be it Southeast Asia, Africa, parts of Middle East. I think India model, because whatever we have built out of India on a unit cost side, it's far, far more efficient to distribute. Second, I think as the world is accepting more of the digital public infrastructure born out of India, I believe 17 countries have already taken in some form the DPI. And now with the BIMSTEC and many other global partnership, we are seeing a lot of India stack is going to be available in our neighborhood countries and beyond. So I think the India model, be it on making sure that the access to credit, availability of payment, understanding the real-time data and analytics for credit, risk, fraud, even building identity verification and fraud risk. I think products like these born out of India already are seeing adoption, but yes, have we done enough? Answer is no. We still have to start building those world-class companies out of India. But I think each of these opportunities that we talk about, and I think some of those like you are helping, be it in terms of the mortgage onboarding, because I think access to how do you look at the data, title, land, property, underwriting, collaterals, these are universal problems. These are not a problem for India, but yes, if we are solving for India, I think we are ready to also go and solve it for other parts of the world.
Agree. Can we close the door, please? Yeah. So I think building those products is crucial. I think we have a session from Sandeep on from Vastu. I think 7 8 years back they were wanted to solve or they were solving the issues on affordable housing. I think this is the model for India, which is what is working, right? A real problem, a real solution, and a long-term sustenance. I think that's how it works. So happy to have you here as well, Sandeep. So I think in terms of innovations, what are the critical factors you see from a scalability perspective? Because the fact of the matter is it has to be low cost. So what are the typical traits you have to build for? I see a lot of people early and even now some people get enamored by some technology and all and end up building something. So what are the key traits somebody should look at from a business model which is long-term and sustainable and works in Indian context before it goes outside?
See, I think the business models in my mind will continue to get disrupted, but we are technology-wise, we are seeing a lot more advent of open source now. It also helps in terms of fostering collaboration and increasing the innovation. So there is a classic debate between closed versus open. I think the second is now with increasing use of AI, we are going to see a cost of development and changes going to be much faster. Also advent of things like our API orchestration platform, because you and I both are strong believer in the future of embedded finance in countries globally, because manufacturers are not necessarily the great distributors of product. They do not have all the data. They do not have access to customers at the real time when a customer is in need of a financial product or a service. So thereby, I think, how do you orchestrate and steer through ecosystem? And thereby, I think the kind of API first, building it for connecting and integrating, but still at the same time having your core stack, which looks at compliance, risk, and data privacy at the core of what you are building. I think some of these will become the key tenets around which the whole financial service future will get unraveled. And that will happen everywhere. Like today we are seeing here the Kisan credit card or agri loan. And I mean, what is it? You are just finding a digital way to verify a collateral. You are finding a way to lend against that collateral. And then you have a full digital trail of it. Things like these were not available even in India a few years back. And we are still going to go through more maturity around it, right? So I think each of this technology has to keep pace, but business model will keep shifting because customers will at the end of it decide what business model will succeed and at what point in time. If I'm okay to go to a marketplace to borrow, banks will have to figure out how to work with marketplace. You don't have a choice. So I think gone are the days when you can be arrogant in saying this is the way I do business, because then customers will say, you go your way and I'll go my way, right? So I think this whole shift is going to decide how technology will support and enable and probably at times lead the shift in business model.
I think this next question is not on the script, okay? So you came from a typical branch banking and business model, and you became a digital head, and now you obviously driving other initiatives as well in the market on fintech and digital side. So how has been the transition? Because you technically disrupted yourself, right? New thought process, new challenges, and you built Kotak at one. So he was the one who was driving Kotak 811 in Kotak Bank. So any thoughts on how your thought process changed post that?
So I think, Samir, both of us have disrupted ourselves. You also came from a traditional banking, and that's where you are. So I think the best thing is about challenging the status quo. And status quo is not only about status quo at work, but status quo with yourself. And I always believe that the only way you can stay relevant and be in the long term is if you constantly innovate yourself first. What you did, what you had, titles, positions, success, these are all part of history. I think what's relevant is what we are learning today. forums like these, interacting with young people, those who are building great ideas, taking firms. And I think that's where I've spent now my time, because even while at Kotak, I think I was the first chief digital officer in 2013, and people were saying, what is digital? Okay, if this is digital, then what is IT? And we came through those phases of debating, arguing the role, relevance, impact, and then, but I think the good thing was a lot of us thrive in what I call the VUCA world, that if things are volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, we enjoy, but some people get intimidated. And I think I always believe that I somehow enjoy that. And my core principle, like you would have heard of Holy Trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, I know what I'm not good at. Okay, I am not a Vishnu who's a preserver. So in banks, you always find a lot of preservers who will take a product and keep running it for next 15 years, 20 years. I was more of Brahma, build something, find a preserver who can maintain it, and then go back and become a Mahesh to destroy it so that you go back and rebuild. So I think I enjoy this because this is where I get to do both Brahma, not Mahesh. And I meet a lot of Brahmas every day. So yeah, that's an interesting phase of my life.
This is good. This is good. Maybe we can pick up some questions from the people here as well. Maybe we'll have time for one. I'll ask the just last question here. What are the models which you think are likely to work from India to outside? I think बहुत साल हो गए हमारी slavery को. हर चीज़ बाहर से लाके हम उसकी पूजा करते हैं कि वो वहाँ से आया है, उन्होंने बोला है. Sam Altman ने बोल दिया तो हमने मान लिया कि हमसे बनेगा नहीं, right? And then many of us become expert in agentic AI the moment somebody in US says so, right? And they will say because they want to dominate, right? अगर एक बार बोल दिया था बिल गेट्स ने बैंकिंग की जरूरत नहीं, बैंक की जरूरत है, मैं भी तो ये बोल रहा हूँ ना, सॉफ्टवेयर की जरूरत नहीं है क्या? We can say anything, right? So the point is, what is it that is going to come from India which will bring more confidence, which is what Modi ji talks about?
So I think two or three things, and very important again question, because this hurts all of us, right? That why some of the best world-class companies are not coming out of India. And that's true narrative. We can't, whether we all love our country, but then that's also the reality that that why do we have a Google and a Facebook or a Meta or all these things, I mean, coming out from. I think the challenge is, and if there are founders, and I'm sure there are founders in this room, and I meet a lot of them, frankly, we do not think of building products for the world. Our first big challenge in this country has been our vision. I've been to Israel a few times. I meet a lot of folks in Israel. They know their domestic market is so small that anything that they are building, they have to build it for the world. So I think your day zero mindset from a design, thinking, scale is more global. I think we all are complacent because we see कि यार इंडिया में इतनी बड़ी opportunity है, इतना तो business हम कर लेंगे. And then once एक बार हम इंडिया में कुछ कर लेंगे, फिर बाहर थोड़ा South East Asia, Middle East सोच लेंगे. So our thinking has been very incremental, and a traditional template है कि यार पहले इंडिया में तो कर लें, फिर बाहर जाएंगे. You know, and I've seen some.
He is looking at me. Okay, that is also what I do.
No, but we have been discussing of. I think your model is something that can go across, but I think that's the real challenge. Especially, I keep saying that why can't we build great products out of India? A lot of stuff we do, our product and services are together. Service is not a scalable business. Products, you can have a small team and still you can build for the world. But that means, and globally, most of the smart guys who are working for large global product companies, probably 1/3 of them are Indians. So it's not about the lack of talent. I think it's more about the vision and thinking about how do we build world-class products out of India. And I think there are many areas that we all have been discussing. I think India model today, world respects. There was a time 5 years back, probably if you're building something out of India, we lacked that credibility. I think today, thanks to a lot of India's story, right, from a DPI led to UPI and a lot of stuff, I think there's a strong narrative for India. So a lot of hard work has been done by the government to make sure that India's story is credible. Question is now entrepreneurs need to go and build those kind of products for the world.
Perfect. Any space for one or two questions? Just one, maybe somewhere? Anybody? Yeah.
Shubham here from Vastu. So I have from picking up your DPI access and relevancy. So at Vastu, we are always at forefront, integrate with the digital stack, India stack. The question is, how companies can stay, relevant, as you mentioned. So for example, DPI is accessible to all, right? Right now, probably the differentiator would be to quickly integrate and serve to the market. Earlier, it would be, the TAT to the customer. So in moving ahead, if we have unified, lending ecosystem or APIs available for everyone. So from your perspective, how you think, the differentiator for the companies or institution for the customer?
I think one of our challenge has been, again, sorry to be putting this so bluntly, I think we have too many Me Too ideas. We are just trying to, then you figure a space out and then a dozen people just want to jump in and then there's very little to differentiate. Then it's about who has raised capital and thereby you have ability to survive. Or you probably can go through a deep discounting or cut. I mean, what else do you compete on? I think your access of competition has to be very different than these two because both are, one side will bleed you, the other side will drive their agenda with you. So I think you need to be very careful on what do you go and pick. And very few actually original ideas are coming out. So I would always encourage founders, and that's what I do on my Saturdays. I do some pro bono with some young founders when they want to brainstorm. But I always keep saying, just think hard on, and think hard not from just technology, not just from license, think from customer. And there are many unmet needs in this country today. For example, on SME, I think there is a huge opportunity on the way you need to relook at the whole SME ecosystem, the way it's been built. I mean, there aren't many people who have gone and solved. SME will continue to remain a fragmented story in India. It won't be taken up like a Phone Pay and a Google Pay, what they did to UPI. So I think there are opportunities, there are green shoots. One has to keep thinking of whether you want to build infra as a service, you want to build something which is on top of your digital public infrastructure stack, or you want to build something on a risk side. Or like Samir rightly said, why aren't we seeing great products coming out on the whole collection, early warning system? Everybody wants to increase unsecured lending in this country. RBI is concerned on the growth of unsecured lending. Why? Because the whole collection side of technology has not evolved as fast as fancy BREs and all that people say, oh, we have better underwriting. If you are underwriting, then why your NPAs are high? So I think there are opportunities on the risk, RegTech, SME, finding a better ways to do collection, fraud, risk, identity. And I think this will keep changing because every time a new technology comes, let me tell you, a lot of incumbents will get disrupted. So if today you are thinking afresh, you don't have a legacy or baggage of some of the incumbents today. You can do the same thing faster, better at a scale, like global scale. I mean, why companies out of Israel can build a world-class companies while we have more data, more identity, more biometric, facial, all kind of signals to build a world-class fraud risk analytics engine. I see most of them coming from other parts of the world, not from India. So I think the story, I think one needs, and I'm saying even if we get 20 smart founders, we can build 20 great global firms out of India.
Yeah, thank you. And one input, while we talk about founders, what they should do, I think fact of the matter is founder himself or herself is in a position where they just don't know every time what's going to happen, right? So it's a very, very tough job to be in. The only request I have, not to founders right now, because अगर आप founder बन गए तो अपने आप में पहला पाप तो आपने कर ही लिया, right? So you don't know what's going to happen, the life and all changes. But one input to all buyers, have some bias for Indian sellers. Not Indian, all Indian sellers have too much of fund raised. Don't expect them to discount because and this is my input, I know it's slightly off. When we go to a mall, we never go for discounts. But the moment we go to a Garib Aadmi in Fashion Street, we start discounting, right? And discounting the level saying, कुछ पैसा उसके पास बचा तो नहीं है, right? And tomorrow मैंने उसको IP दिया है अपना. अगर IP दिया रहा तो बना दो ना. So I think my request to you is that pay slightly more to Indian startups. Many of them die. When we talk about here, I can tell you that all the AI startups who came in 2017, I don't think a single one survived. Not a single one survived. Technically, all the fintechs who came, I think the mortality rate will be upwards of 80, 90%, because many of them who leave without trace. They go back to their jobs and all, and nobody talks about them. So just be more considerate from that perspective, because many of them, they die because when they were doing some great underwriting, they were getting paid 5 lakh रुपए में सब कर दो. कहाँ से कर देगा, right? And then he can't do, and then saying यार वो कर नहीं रहा. Then you will find a US brand and saying, okay, I'll give them some, maybe this project is $2 million. So very different thought process. I know I jumped the gun, but any last point before we close?
No, I think I would say that for even banks or NBFCs or lenders, any kind of regulated entity in the audience, I think the onus, like you rightly said, of creating a success is to give a lot of these companies an early chance. I know a lot of them, they struggle to even get through the gates of banks because of multiple gating criteria. I know in USI, JP Morgan, for example, if you want a contract which is less than $1 million, you can just sign up and you can get in with some filters. Maybe I know that bank's balance sheet in India is not similar to JP Morgan, but forget $1 million. I mean, why not at least $50,000, $30,000? Pick up a lower threshold. And I think this will help you build things faster, test faster, even for startups to scale faster, regulators to get comfort early. And I think this is, an ecosystem is not just one person's job, right? It's everybody has to come together. And if some of you are senior folks who have got a lot of industry experience, I would say that try giving back. Spend some time with the young founders who may probably have a great idea, but they just don't know how to take it to scale because there are regulatory hurdles, there are client, GTM, all the kind of challenges that the founders face. And I believe as a community, truly, how much are you giving beyond to your employer or whatever commercial arrangements you have? I think that's a very important part, because I think it's something, the responsibility lies on all of us if we are saying that why great companies are not coming out of India. Let me tell you, all the senior folks, those who have reached at least a certain threshold of corporate career, they are equally responsible.
Thank you. With this, we close. And thanks all for being a great audience here. Thank you. Thank you, Deepak.
Thank you so much, Deepak, for gracing us with your presence at Bharat Fintech Summit 2025. May we please present him with a memento. Thank you.